I'm back for the second video, probably about a 10-minute video. If you just watched the previous one to this is unpacking, starting on page 21, the analogy between a car and the human body and how the systems work and how it's about managing energy. The first video, I felt I rushed a little bit, therefore I wanted to come back and just to continue to break this down for another 10 minutes because I really think this is important. If we can learn to manage our energy, we can learn to manage our health, and I don't want to rush it. I know I was talking really fast, I was stimulating adrenaline in the hopes to try to get everything accomplished, but yet I want to come back to this and make sure that this thought is clear, because I think when it's clear and we understand it and we take time to think about it, it makes common sense, and I believe this is the essential foundation for getting my and your health back when we go after it. One of the components I didn't talk about with the car, so in a slight recap from the last video, what I talked about is the two glands that create energy in the human body. One is the thyroid gland, located around the neck, and the other one is the adrenal glands, which is located on top of the pancreas, kind of in the midsection of the body. Now, the thyroid is a major regulator of energy, and the adrenal glands are there for our support network or the fight or flight response. We cannot, and it's imperative to know, we cannot constantly, every day, or for long periods of time, run on adrenal glands. We will hit adrenal fatigue. Now, can it mean life or death? It can if the car is not very healthy. The reason why I don't think there's a whole lot of emphasis, because it's like a car. You can pretty easily go to a gas station, fill up with gas, and you can pretty easily change your battery. That's why I don't think we place that much emphasis in our current healthcare economy about it. However, I do think it's leading to ramifications. I sit down with thousands of people over 10 years, and what I see is run really hard in a decade of the 30s to, well, let's say upper 20s to upper 30s, and I visit so many people then in their 40s and 50s that they've just really degenerated because they pushed too hard. And my hope for you is that we can see big picture, and that you can learn to manage your health now so that you can enjoy your whole life, and so that you can be as productive as you want to be your whole life. One of the components of the car illustration and the human body illustration that I didn't take, which is very important, probably the most important, is the driver. So you and I are the driver of the car. The driver of the human body is the mind, or it's our thoughts, or you could call it our free will. Whatever you want to call it, but we have the freedom to choose. We have the freedom to basically overrule our body. And that's why I think it's important to understand this too, that health is the ability to start and stop, and fitness is the ability to endure. Why is that important? Because you can be fit even though you're not healthy. Think about it this way. If you've ever done long distance running, I have, I mentally endured through physical pain. I chose to drive through times when my body said, no more. That's why it's important to understand fitness is about endurance, it's about external. Health is about internal, it's about your ability to start and stop. Now, we are the driver. I believe there is a hierarchy. Ultimately, our mind has the first trump card to control our body, that car, and what we want to do with it. However, I do think where a lot of us get into problems is we start out very strong with the right intentions. We're driven with adrenaline to get ourselves established, to provide for our family. I think all of us are trying to do this. I mean, I think when we really think about it, we're trying to do two things. We're trying to avoid pain, we're trying to bring in pleasure. And so I think when we get to the foundations about that, we're really just trying to avoid pain and bring in pleasure for ourselves and our families. It's just the key questions for health is how are we avoiding pain? And what are we bringing in for pleasure? Are they really good for our body, or are we bringing in things just to try to avoid pain more? Now, that's important when you think about that driver is this. For us, is I can start out with the right intentions, start plowing through. I've met so many people, specifically, I'm going to say in their decade or their 30s into the early 40s, that I know I can do this because of past experience in my late 20s and early 30s. I was pushing through adrenaline, and then I visit them in their late 40s or 50s, and all of a sudden they're really starting to degenerate fast because they're running out of gas. Remember, in my opinion, I believe there is an inverse relationship, or at least I'll say this, there is a relationship where if we're running on adrenaline, I believe the thyroid starts out with the right intentions, but it starts to slow down. It's called hypothyroidism. Now, can we live without a thyroid? Yes, we can. I've seen people do that. However, in my opinion, when we get back to the laws of nature, when you start putting unnatural things in the human body, and we get back to the laws of nature again that says, for everything there's an equal or opposite reaction. We put something that's not natural into our body, it's important just for us to know we will get an effect. And if it's not natural, it's not going to be a natural effect, which will lead to degeneration. Thus, it will lead to worse health. Now, and so in control to our free will and our mind, we can start out driving. What you got to be careful with is this. At the rate that you drive, the faster you drive, the faster our car is going to degenerate. And then what happens? You think of a race car guy. If a guy's driving really fast, really fast, and all of a sudden what starts to happen? They got to take pit stops. Why? Because it starts to fall apart fast. So all of a sudden, you know, cling, cling, tink, tank, cling, cling. All of a sudden the wheel starts to fall apart, starts to wobble. What's harder? It's harder to drive, isn't it? So all of a sudden now you have a hard time getting control of your thoughts. How many of you, I have been there, where all of a sudden you've been driving fast, now I just can't get my mind to slow down, and then it's hard to drive, and all of a sudden I get refilled up, and then I'm highs and lows, and then eventually it leads to low. And so in my opinion, that's when you hit adrenal fatigue. You've been traveling really hard, you run out of gas, all of a sudden your thyroid has an inverse relationship, has slowed down, so now you're not producing hardly any energy. But the good news is that if we get back to the baby steps of learning to manage our energy, of simple baby steps, which I put in this guide, and start doing these. The people that have committed to this, it has worked because you're treating the whole system. When we get back to these things, we can start getting good energy. And again, just think back to your life as I had to reflect on mine. When I have good energy, I have good health. When I have bad energy, I have bad health. And so my goal is, number one, to help you understand energy and how we need to manage it, just like we were to manage our money. We can't spend without ever saving. It doesn't work that way. We got to budget our energy just like we budget our money, because there is a certain fine line or budget our energy just like we have money, just because there is a fine line. And so just please think about those concepts. See if this makes sense to you. And I hope that you'll continue on for reading the guide, thinking through it, also visiting more videos, and maybe I can help unpack any questions you may have. My goal is your health. My goal is to be a resource for you, and that is simply my intentions. I wish you the best in good health. Blessings.